Hi everybody and welcome to another episode of Transfiguration. My name's Alexis Lorraine and I'm going to be your host tonight. So we are just waiting for our guest this evening to join us and we'll get this interview started. And there she is. Look at this. Everybody's super prompt today. How great is that? Okay. Slightly new setup with my camera. We'll see how it works. And we'll wait. And there she is. Hi! Welcome. Okay, give me just 1 second. I'm trying something new here. There we go. Okay, that'll work. So, I got tired of bumping my desk and having my camera go all wobbly, so I've mounted it a little differently. Now I feel like I'm looking up at you, but hey, we'll see how this works. So, okay. Welcome. And we have all of our usual suspects falling into the viewer category. So how about you introduce yourself to us? Name, anything you want us to know about yourself, as well as your pronouns, please.
Okay, so my name's Christyna. She, her, hers. And as you can tell by my t-shirt, I am a huge Doctor Who fan. See? It's a Dalek.
It's a Dalek. I had a Dalek Christmas tree once. If you haven't seen pictures of my classroom, you should absolutely look at them. They're on my feed. I have TARDISes all over my classroom. I have multiple TARDISes. So
I have seen pictures of your classroom. I actually have 2 TARDISes that sit in my living room.
Mine is just my TARDIS blanket. I don't have any other TARDISes at home, but I do have my TARDIS blanket. And here's what's great. My kids would actually hang it in front of the closet door, so it would be like they were going into the TARDIS.
That's amazing.
I love my children. They are so fabulous. What do you got? Oh, wow. Okay, so that is commitment. I do not have that kind of commitment. You win. You are the Whovian of all Whovians. Wow, lovely. A starry night with the TARDIS, Why not?
Absolutely.
So, let's get this started, shall we?
Okay.
So, standard starting question is the question I seem to ask everybody right away. At what point did you realize that you were transgender?
Transgender, or knew something was different about me?
Let's start with the knew something different, because we'll come to the transgender point. So, at what point did you know that things weren't quite right how they were?
Probably right around 5 or 6. I would pass the mirror and I'd look at myself in the mirror, and I didn't realize why I was doing it. I just know I never felt quite right. Always felt like there was something off and I couldn't kind of put my finger on it. So I was kind of always looking, doing this in the mirror.
Oh, a little bit of lag there. I'm sure we'll catch right back up. Or is it me? You never know. When you're on this side of the camera, you can't tell. So we'll check our signal in just a second. This is what happens when you do live shows, folks. Sometimes you just have this lag. Only hers, because I still have the feed going through. Oh, we lost Christyna. Let's see. She'll probably be back on in just a second. Here we go. Let's bring her back in. Okay, it happens. This is what it's all about, doing live shows. Who knows? It's not me. Okay. There she goes.
Yes.
Okay, so she's back.
Yes.
She had to be special. She had to come back.
Yes. I don't know what happened.
We just lost signal. It happens.
Okay.
So, you were saying that standing in front of a mirror, you had these feelings like something was wrong, like, you're passing in front of a mirror. And so, okay.
I can never put my finger on it. I have a twin brother, and
okay.
I never acted quite like my twin brother did.
Real quick, identical or fraternal?
He's a fraternal twin brother.
Just checking, because I'm noticing some similarities, and I want to keep track of these similarities that we get between our guests. So, a fraternal twin brother, okay.
Mm-hmm. So I don't. I always felt off, and like so. I grew up in South Carolina, Charleston. So growing up in that area was not the best if you're different, um, and if you are perceived to be a little boy and you don't act like a little boy, you get called nasty names. You get beat up. You get jumped. And then I had an older brother who did not help the situation at all. You know, the typical toughen me up. Because
Yes,
boys
because
don't act like that.
because beating into submission or beating something into someone is the best solution, folks. That's what this is all about. See, if you don't conform, just beat them for a while, and that's going to work, right? That's how behavioral changes come about, right?
Absolutely. And of course, I'm gonna date myself. So I'm in my 40s. So transgender was not a definition. It's not a word that I grew up with. So I didn't know. I just knew I didn't feel comfortable in my own skin.
Right.
Puberty sucked. So puberty was like a horrible time in life for me. I think I did like the normal, try to be macho type things.
Hypercompensating.
Absolutely. I joined the military, did 20 years in the United States Navy. Deployed 9 times, 5 times to combat zones. Volunteered for submarines, then volunteered for submarines that deployed Navy SEALs.
Yeah, I would say that's compensating.
Yes. I was a cook in the Navy, too.
Oh, well, hey,
And I love cooking.
Better you than me.
Yeah.
So, all right. So we have this state of being where but you felt that something was different, and I completely relate because about the same time period, the same time in a mirror, I had this sensation that somebody was, that somebody else was looking back from that reflection. And it was that sense of separation, that disassociation that came from that really troubled me the most as a kid. I remember struggling with this idea that, okay, well, is this how everyone feels? So this is when you're younger. Now, did you manifest any gender nonconforming, at that age, or did you just go along with, what you were expected to?
I wasn't given the opportunity to, because I had an older brother that lived with me, and because of being in the South, it was either conform or be beaten to submission.
Okay.
So, in order for me to survive, I did my best to conform, and it sort of worked a little bit. I still got abused. I still got beat. I still got beat up. I had a traumatic incident that happened to me at 12 years old that kind of sealed my fate as in how I was going to act from that point on.
Okay.
I had a cousin who me and my brother were sent to live with my aunt in Washington State. My cousin was a very sick individual. Very, very sick. He would beat on me, tortured me. When I say torture, I don't mean like, ha, ha, ha. He did mean things. I mean like holding my head underwater, choke me till I passed out, handcuff me to electric.
Right, being hung from a tree by your neck with a metal chain. Yeah, I understand.
Well, not quite that bad, but close enough. I mean, I was handcuffed to electric fence.
It's essentially the same thing. It's all just varying degrees of illness in those situations. So, how did this affect you? I mean, obviously, we understand mostly, but in relation to your gender identity, how did that kind of abuse manifest itself in your coping mechanisms?
Well, I just started acting like my twin brother. I acted like him. super compensated. So I did the whole trying to be extra macho, tough, you don't cry, you're a wuss if you cry. I mean, like, seriously, over the top, drown myself in what everyone showed me as what masculinity should have been.
It's the perpetuation of the toxic masculinity. It's Absolutely. How it works. We pass it on from one generation to another, and sometimes within the generation itself, you have this abuse, you have this torture because there is no other description that would fit such a situation. And it's passed on, and it's this kind of behavior that creates the dangerous environment that we as trans women and trans men and non-binary and gender fluid, all transgender folks, have to live in this dangerous world because of this perpetuation of toxic masculinity. And it's not just men, but let's be fair, the murders of transgender women are not typically being perpetuated by women.
This is true.
Okay, so you hypercompensated for safety reasons, and I fully understand. I really, really do understand. So, as you were growing up and you were getting into the high school years and you were discovering, going through puberty, as you said, how did you deal with this exposure? Did you, and no judgments because, this is kind of just how it is, but did you also manifest those same kind of aggressive tendencies towards people who didn't conform?
No, actually, I didn't. I actually kind of went the other way. I wanted to self-harm.
Okay.
Due to just being beat so much, I had a very high tolerance for pain.
Okay.
So because puberty was so hard on me, because I had these suicidal thoughts going through puberty, where most times I figured I was better off dead, I would injure myself. I used to pull staples out of my papers and straighten them out so I can literally shove them into my skin and yank them out, causing wounds. I guess nowadays they'd say a cutter, but it wasn't with a knife, it was with staples. Anything I can get, tacks, whatever I get a hold of, I'd cause myself pain. I would insult myself so other people wouldn't. I figured if I took away their power of the insult, then they wouldn't pick on me.
Right. So not only were you resorting to physical harm, you were resorting to psychological harm as well.
Oh, absolutely.
Belittling yourself and putting yourself down in that way. That way, nobody could do worse than what you were doing to yourself. So it's like, if I treat myself the worst in the world, then no one can harm me because I'm my biggest enemy. And God, that is so familiar. And I am just, these interviews, I hear a lot of things. Everybody has at this point, but it's just absolutely heartbreaking. No matter what, how many times I hear it, and it's difficult. But I think it's important to share these, and I think it's absolutely brave of you to share because wounds like that, while they do heal, I have my scars here, and I'm not ashamed of them. I'm not proud of them, but I'm not ashamed of them because they are the wounds that we inflict upon ourselves due to the damage that's been inflicted on us by the outside world, and sometimes just by mental states within. So, okay, so how did you manage? I'm hoping to goodness that you overcame the self-harm aspect of this. How did that look? How long did this kind of behavior last?
Oh, well, the physically harming myself lasted till I joined the military.
Okay. And then that's just a whole nother kind of self-harm. No, I'm just kidding.
And the emotional, I want to say, happened till I met my current wife.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm glad that you no longer do it because I mean, goodness, that would be just awful. All right, I'm a little high here, so there we go. Okay, so as you're coming out the other side of puberty, being the survivor that you are, at what point did you start to really get back to questioning your identity again? I mean, because we can bury these feelings very deep. So at what point did they come back?
Well, that's kind of like off and on throughout like my adulthood, if you want to call it adulthood. You have childhood, we have adulthood. I would say I would have these feelings of like thoughts like, oh, why couldn't I have been born a woman? You know, I wish I was born a woman. But these were like fleeting, and they would go away, and I would chalk it up as to just being mentally messed up a little bit, and off I go.
You know, and that's actually something I think those of us who are abuse survivors have had to compensate for. You know, I knew who I was. I knew that I was a woman, and I knew, you know, that I when I was a kid, I wanted to have been born a girl, you know, and assigned at birth girl, obviously. But the physical abuse that I suffered and the sexual abuse that I suffered as a kid actually delayed my being able to accept myself as transgender, because all of my therapists and all of my psychiatrists all said that it was this damage that was causing me to manifest a gender dysphoria. And so, you know, did you find that, was that the same for you? Is that this abuse that you suffered inhibited your ability to accept yourself because you were like, well, this is what the cause was, it's not real?
I think so. Actually, I think a lot. And by the way, like some of the simulators we have are kind of eerie, because my cousin actually sexually assaulted me. His statement was, if I was going to act like a girl, he was going to treat me like a girl.
And that would be the exact phrase that the people who raped me said when I was in college. Almost the exact words of that.
I was 12 when that happened to me. My cousin was much bigger than I am, much older than I was. And
it doesn't take much. When you're smaller, you know, when you're younger, you can be an easy target, and you can be made to be the victim. And there is no excuse for it. And this idea that, oh, well, you asked for it because of your behavior reflecting your gender identity is morally repugnant and absolutely atrocious. And we'll come back to that. I want to continue on. I don't want to get stuck too much into the.
Yes,
it's a bit hard for me as well. This topic usually ends up getting me crying. So if I start crying, folks, I'm trying to be professional. Just give me a break. So we have this abuse component, and it's delaying your transition. So at what point, you know, you had over the years, you have this this off and on, you know, experience of feeling, you know, was it dysphoria? Was it you know, just a longing, or, you know, do you have a name, like an identification for it?
So I was always sad, just sad. When I was happy, quote, it was very fleeting, and there's always underlying sadness, always in the background, and it was always hard for me to say, okay, why is it that sometimes I cry for no reason at all?
Yeah.
What's making me sad? You know, why do I, you know, when I got a little older, I started hanging out, you know, female friends, and I would go shopping with them, and I'd help them pick their clothes out. They called me their fashionista, because I would help them pick their clothes out, and I was really good at helping them pick their clothes out. So you had moments of like euphoria when you were able to express some of these desires, you know, whether it be clothes shopping or spending time with other girls and that kind of thing. Yeah, I would say yeah. I mean, I think when I was trying to act macho, I got along better with my female friends than I did my male friends.
Okay.
I felt more comfortable with them.
Okay. Now, I can, again, eerie similarities. I only had one male friend in my entire life, and he ended up stealing my fiance. So, it's what happens, folks. I just can't be friends with guys. Sorry. So,
my wife just chuckled because she knows of a story. Like, my first fiance, I lost her to my best friend because he slept with her.
Okay, you and I are apparently the same person, and we should just end this interview right now because I don't want you telling all my secrets. No, I'm just kidding. I'm an open book. I will answer any questions. If anybody ever wants to actually, officially interview me, sure, we can totally do that. We'll get Vanessa on here, and she can do a reverse interview for the Transfiguration page. Okay, so you're making connections with women, and you're finding that there is this sense of belonging, this sense of connection there. So now, at what point did we start hitting a breaking point where you started to realize, well, firstly, when did you learn about the concept of being transgender, and at what point, either before or after, did you start to realize that this was something that you needed to do?
Okay, so, excuse me, sorry, my cat's being out.
Cats are fine. Dogs are better. Cats are fine.
I have them both. I have my cat here, my dog right over here. To answer the question, I knew about trans people, I must say, in my late 30s. It kind of came to the surface, and it was in the media. And I was like, huh. But it never kind of clicked that.
Don't say Caitlyn Jenner. Please don't say.
No. Absolutely not. Not
so
her.
Tired of hearing her name.
Yeah. No, it was the other things, the transgender issues that are being brought up in the media and stuff like that. And I was like, it got me to go, huh. However, I want to say that my wife of 9 years, she made me like the happiest I've ever been, but I was still sad, and I was exploring why I was still, even though I was the happiest I'd been, still crying myself to sleep at night at times. Why? Why?
Right. You don't have a reason, and you feel like and it almost makes you feel worse because you're like, why am I sad? There's nothing to be sad about. You're constantly reinforcing this idea that you should be fine. You should be happy. You have a spouse who cares about you. You have a life that is whatever it is. For the most part. Anyway, so you have this concept that you're supposed to be happy at this point. What's wrong with you? And so it ends up compounding that inner turmoil because you're like, well, why am I not happy? Okay, so continue.
Right. Okay, so I still had that feeling like it didn't feel right in my own skin. So I literally Googled that. And it came up with a few things, but transgender was one of them. And since I'd heard about it, I kind of knew what it was. I looked into it, did some more research, and I was like, huh, is there a test? Is there a test to tell me?
Wouldn't that be the easiest thing in the world? Of course, then we'd have to worry about eugenics.
Right, well, I actually found a test that supposedly would tell you, not if you're transgender or not, whether you lean masculine or feminine in your mind, the way you think.
Right.
So, of course, I'm a consummate research person. I research, I look things up, I try to get the answers because that's just how she works. So I took this little 400 question test. I can't hear you. Yes.
I'm not talking.
Oh, okay.
400.
Yes.
400. That's dedication right there. I'm sorry, but if that's the case, if you take a 400 question test to determine if you are transgender, I'm telling you something. You are. If you're that dedicated to taking a test to figure out your femininity or feminine or masculine, guess what? You're obviously transgender.
So, so the next thing was, I was just like, I went and bought women's clothing. Now, buying women's clothing for me was, excuse me, I'm readjusting myself here.
Okay.
Was no big deal because I went shopping for my wife all the time. So going to the women's section, buying jeans, a nice blouse, underwear, makeup, no big deal. Because for me, okay, they don't know I'm buying it for me, buying it for my wife. So I went home, I played with some makeup, which I can say I'm much better with my makeup now than I was. I was a hot mess.
Before we get any further, I want to know this. Is this before or after you came out to your spouse?
This is before I came out to my spouse. And I can...
Okay.
I don't
checking.
So, yes, this was before. So I put the clothes on. I borrowed one of her bras because I wasn't going to buy a bra because I didn't think of buying a bra because I didn't even know what size I'd be in a bra. How do you know that? So I put all this makeup on horribly, like I said, put the women's clothing on, and I looked in the mirror. And when I looked in the mirror, it was the first time I could remember in like the history of me that I did not despise what was staring back at me in the mirror. There was the glimmer, that hope of, wow. It was like my aha moment. The big old light bulb popped on. And I was like, okay, what do I do now? I need a therapist. Let me get a therapist.
The fact that you're only just thinking you need a therapist is a little alarming. Even before I was dealing with my gender dysphoria and my gender identity, I needed as much help as I could get. I was a mess. So you're stronger than I was.
I was raised that
we don't talk about our problems.
Yeah, we don't talk. You don't go to therapy. Going to therapy is admitting weakness, and we're not weak. That was how I was raised. That was my dad. He wasn't being mean. That was just Dad. That's how Dad was.
Right.
So Dad had issues, but Dad didn't need anybody to talk to, so I didn't need anybody to talk to. I just did what I did. I survived. I learned to survive, not live, to survive. And that's what I did. I survived, which means I didn't talk to people because I learned long, long time ago, when you talk to people, they use it against you and they cause you pain. So you don't talk to them. You keep it bottled up. I would talk to my wife. I'd tell her bits and pieces. It took me the longest time to open up to her, and I love her with all my heart. It took me the longest time, and the more I talked about it, the more I opened up, the more she learned, the more she started despising certain members of my family.
I don't blame you. I don't even know the whole story, and I despise a few of them already too. So.
My dad. Although my dad is, we'll talk about when I came out, but my dad's a sweetheart. I love him to death. He never did. He never treated me incorrectly. He was
of the old mentality that you got to be a guy's guy, and
Absolutely.
No, I understand completely. Who's the baby?
That's Karma. She's awesome.
Is Karma a bitch? Is she a female dog?
Yes, she is.
Of course she is, because Karma's a bitch.
Exactly.
I'm sorry for my language, folks, but Karma and I don't get along very well. So of all the animals in the entire world, that dog is going to be the only one that doesn't like me to start with. Okay,
she loves everybody. So
since you brought it up, let's go to our outing stories.
Okay.
We're already 30 minutes into our conversation here, so let's talk about our outing. Our outs. Who did you come out to first? How did it go over? I swear to goodness, if you don't say your wife, I'm going to be very upset.
Oh well, yes. I came out to her, as in she discovered my clothes and thought I was cheating on her.
Oh, that's not better.
No, that's not. I think I would have rather came out to her than her finding my clothes
and thinking you're being unfaithful. Absolutely.
Absolutely. So,
if she's gonna hate you, at least let her hate you for what it is. That way, it's not entirely your fault, but it's a little bit your fault.
Yeah. So she discovered the clothes. So I told her, no, those aren't a girlfriend's clothes. Those are my clothes. And she said a couple colorful metaphors. She did not believe me. She threw the clothes at me and said, "Oh yeah, prove it." So I put them on, and then it kind of clicked that they were my clothes.
I will say this, and this is just as a side note. If this is just a way to get out of being in trouble for having an affair, serious commitment to the lie, my friend. I'm just kidding. Like, you were caught, but you're committed to this one. Not backing down from this. I'm sorry, I had to say it. I had to bring it up. Okay. So you didn't come out. I mean, you did come out. So what was your wife's reaction once she realized the truth of the situation?
She kind of had a breakdown. She cried, fell to the floor, asked what she did, and I told her, it wasn't you, it's not you. It's one of those typical, it's not you, it's me, but it actually was me.
It's literally true this time.
Yeah, it's literally true. So I want to blame my ex-therapist for that one, because she wanted me to wait, and I wanted to come out to my wife sooner. Had I come out to my wife sooner, she wouldn't have found my clothes.
And you would have also had support a lot longer, and it wouldn't have been a negative outing situation. It would have been one built from trust and respect as opposed to, suspicion. I absolutely see. Your former therapist sounds like a nut job. So
yes, it was surprise.
Now, your former therapist, did they specialize in any gender therapy, or were they just a general practitioner of gender therapist?
She was a therapist for transgender youth and adults.
Okay, now I will say this. A lot of therapists for younger trans people will say to wait because, to be absolutely sure that you are, in fact, identifying this way. I tell, when I have students come to me and say, oh, I think I'm transgender, I'm like, first of all, I'm not the person you should be talking to. Let's go talk to the counselor. That way I'm not having this conversation alone. And then I always say, don't be in any hurry. What you need to do is talk to your parents about getting somebody a professional mental health provider to talk to. And it's safety for me. I mean, I would love to talk to them about my experience, but that's not the right thing to do. If a parent brought their child to me to discuss being transgender, absolutely I would talk with them with their parent present, but not with a child coming to me. So as a therapist, I can see a therapist saying wait, but not for an adult. You know your mind, you know your personality, so what gives? Yeah.
So that coming out wasn't the best. It could have been better. Mm-hmm. I wish it would have been better. Although my wife is extremely supportive, we're still together. I'm coming up 2.5 years on hormones. Been 2.5 years on hormones. So, and been out full time 2 years. So,
that's really good. Okay, so you had an awkward coming out to your wife where she thought you were having an affair. That's interesting. That's a new one. I haven't heard that story before. Now, let's talk about your professional career at this point. What were you doing? Were you still in the military at this point?
No, I retired actually back in 2012.
Okay.
I was actually in college because I went to college after my military career, and I have a BSBA in Human Resource Management. I'm the girl you want to talk to if you think if someone's being, if you're transgender, send me a message.
I'm sorry, are you still in South Carolina?
No, I'm in New York. However,
well, then that does me no good.
Oh.
Okay, so well, that seems like a really good position to be in for coming out, because you know all the rules.
Absolutely. But I actually came to my current job, out as Christyna. Although
okay.
I interviewed as, I'm going to use my dead name.
Yeah.
Christopher. Sorry, that's who I was. I went to, when I showed up at work, I showed up as Christyna.
Okay.
And
how'd that go over?
Actually, it went over well, because I called them and let them know I was coming and who I was, and that I was trans, and they were like, oh, okay, no problem. I'm in the state of New York. New York has some really good laws to protect trans people. Really good laws. Okay.
So, well, that's good to know.
Yes.
Now that I'm moving across country the other direction.
Sorry, I know, you're in, like, Arizona. But that's also, like, a trans mecca, so...
It seems like it, doesn't it? It's funny, I actually use those exact... Again, I use those exact words in a conversation with a friend of mine that lives there. And they're like, oh, well, yeah, it kind of is. So,
yeah.
All right, so you come out at work, and this seems easy peasy, from what it sounded like.
Yes, my father was... I thought he'd be the hardest person to come out to. My father was career Navy. He built explosives in the Navy. He was a mineman. He fought in Vietnam. Macho, 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 macho. So coming out to him was almost as scary as coming out to my wife.
I would say so, especially if he can blow you up.
So, however, what happened when I told him was totally blew my mind. Actually, almost cried. I almost cried, but not like because I was sad. So I tell him, and he says, Chris, I want you to be happy. That's all I want. And I said, I am. And he says, I always wanted a daughter.
Oh. I'm okay. I'm not gonna cry. I'm not crying. You're crying. Oh my gosh.
That was the same reaction, waving. I was like, oh my God, he just said that. And I call my dad, and every once in a while he'll misgender me, but he doesn't do it on purpose. But he is trying so hard. I call him, and he says, how's it going, young lady? How's it been? So, I would say my wife and my dad were my biggest...
And this is why I don't wear mascara when I'm doing these shows.
I know, when I'm wearing mascara too, I'm like, I'm not going to cry.
Not going to cry. I got waterproof mascara specifically because I was crying like every single day. And I was just like, okay, let's do that. And then I realized waterproof mascara is a demon. It's a devil. Don't use it. It's not worth it. Okay, so that is truly marvelous. That is miraculous that you're, when you're coming out to your dad that way, and that was his reaction.
And Bio Mom, she lives in South Carolina, and you know how they are in South Carolina.
I do, firsthand.
Me too.
First 4 sets of hands, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, absolutely, it's awful down here. We dictate, or they dictate every single decision down here by what the Bible says or what we interpret the Bible to say,
exactly.
Which in some cases is different depending on what religion you are. So, okay, now I'm all emotional.
I'm sorry.
It's okay. I forgive you. Just don't do it again, okay? All right, so we have this beautiful coming out. Now, I want to back up a bit. What is your relationship like with your brother, with your older brother? Or do you even have one?
I don't have one. I don't talk to him at all. If he ever came to my house, I'd use my shotgun on him.
Okay, understandable. I completely understand that relationship. And I imagine the same is true. Well, what about your twin?
My twin brother, I love him to death. He's so supportive. He calls me sis. He doesn't want me telling stories from our childhood because the connotation of those stories has changed. Because, cute story, maybe when we were younger, we're twins. So my brother peed on me when we were younger. Yes, laugh.
So yeah, I get it.
So, of course, now that connotation has changed because he didn't pee on his twin brother. Now it's he peed on his twin sister. Which
come on. Kids are kids. Brothers are going to pee on whoever they can. It's like marking their territory.
But the way he looks at it, it's mortifying to him now. He's like, don't tell people I peed on you. I'm like, why?
I'm sorry. It wasn't mortifying before?
No, it was. Before
what kind of sexist nonsense is this? We're equal opportunity urinators here, folks. We will urinate on whoever for whatever reason. Okay. This show just took a whole nother turn. I'm going to steer the wheel back. Hold on. Okay. Sorry, folks. Got off track there. Okay, so now, what would you say your biggest euphoria moment was to this point?
To be blunt, boobs.
Boobs?
Having boobs, yes.
I can't say too much about that. Mine are very small, but they're appropriately sized, so I should be grateful.
Yeah, mine are, and that's my doggy walking across. Yeah, looking down and going, I have boobs. It just, that and having my toenails painted. I love that too.
I get it completely. Okay, so boobs. Why not? It's funny is I was always very interested in breasts, when I was younger and growing up, and now, let's be fair. But I find myself less enamored with them now that I have my own. Like, they're just there. Whatever. It was funny, though, is I was taking off a shirt one time, and I want to know your opinion on this. I was taking off my shirt one time, and I had a sports bra on, and I pulled the sports bra off, and then, I pull it, and I had plop. And I was like, oh, it's like getting punched in the chest with those. And mine are small. So, you see these, like those people running without a bra, and I'm like, give that poor girl some support. What's wrong with you? So, whole new appreciation for women. Whole new appreciation for cis women who have been handed these things on their chest their whole lives.
Absolutely.
I wouldn't trade mine in, though. I love them.
I wouldn't trade mine in either. I've been kind of blessed. I'm a little on the C side of things.
Okay.
So, but when I was developing them, we had puppies and we had them in this little pin. And I reached over to grab one of them, and of course, brand new. And I caught this metal wire thing right through the middle of one. And I was just like, oh!
Good grief. Why are you always being impaled by metal things?
I don't know.
Okay. Now, how do you deal with the dysphoria at this point? So you have your boobs, so you're happy. But how do you deal with those moments when when you feel dysphoria creeping in?
I tell myself, it's limited. Like, the dysphoria is limited because I have surgery coming up November 18th. So once I got my surgical date, I remind myself it's the 18th. It's November 18th. It's November 18th. So that helps a lot.
Which surgery are we talking about?
Bottom surgery.
Lucky. It's so weird to say that to people. It's like, yes, you're going to undergo this major trauma to your system. You're still lucky.
I know. I'm saying I saw Dr. Ting, and I got all the W pathways done, and my surgical date. So.
And where are you going to be at for the surgery?
New York City.
Okay, so are you going to the same place that Erica just went to? Erica Forever After. If you don't follow her, absolutely go follow her. And then check out her post from today, because she just got discharged for her surgery.
Yeah, I do follow her because I've seen her. I know she was in. I don't know who she saw. I don't think, because I'll be in Beth Israel.
Oh no, okay, not the same one.
I think she saw an associate of Dr. Tang.
Probably. I mean, they all know each other, right? It's not a huge community. So
yeah.
All right. So so you have these moments of dysphoria now, and you recognize that they are limited, they are temporary. But what would you say your dysphoria manifests right now? What's the what triggers your dysphoria?
Oh my God, I don't really know what well, most times just saying it.
Okay, well, I'm sorry, we're moving on then. Moving on.
Okay, yeah.
We won't acknowledge it at all anymore. There's no such thing.
Okay.
We banned it from the dictionary. And if you believe that, I've also removed the word gullible. Okay. So, all right. So we're moving on to that. Now, we are coming towards the last quarter of our interview here. What would you say, what are some of the efforts that you've made to ensure your mental health at this point? You spoke to a therapist. Are you still continuing that kind of therapy to find your stability?
I've stopped seeing a therapist for the last couple of months. The therapist I was seeing, she left the area, and I just haven't got a new therapist. And
sometimes it's hard. You can't just jump in. It's not like going to somebody who makes a good hot dog. You have to find somebody who actually you click with. You have an emotional rapport. Absolutely. No, there's no judgment for that. We do what we have to, and sometimes life changes. So that's a perfectly reasonable adaptation. Okay, so now what would you say to all of us young baby transers here? It's us baby trans that are coming out. Even though I think you and I are almost the same age. You are further along the road than I am. I hit a few roadblocks early, so I've been held up. I've been on HRT for a year and a half, and that's it. That's all I've managed to get in South Carolina. I still think the fact that I'm on HRT for a year and a half is a pretty big accomplishment with the obstacles that they place here. But what would you say to all this baby trans? Yeah, Alexis, you are a baby trans, sure. Okay, I'll take your word for it. What would you say to us baby trans who are starting out on the journey and need that kind of advice or that support from a woman who has seen it all?
Well, I don't know if I've seen it all. I would say focus on the positive moments in your life. Focus on the positives. Always look at the goal, because as we transition, we do have a goal. What is your goal? Keep that in mind. What is your ultimate goal in transitioning? And that's all I did. I said, okay, here's where I'm at. Here's where I want to be at. And how do I get there? And just try to keep yourself positive. Because, yes, transitioning is one of the slowest things ever. I remember when I started transitioning, I wanted...
One second. Transitioning is slow for a trans woman.
Oh, absolutely.
Transition for a trans man? Now, okay, the surgeries are just the same pace, but the effects of testosterone on a trans masculine person are irritatingly effective.
I know. Well, we're kicked off into puberty earlier. Again, I should say. Not earlier.
Puberty 2.0 sucks, and I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Exactly. No, I wouldn't. But I say just remember what your goal is. What is your end goal? Where do you want to be? And then just remind yourself that's where you're going. And do baby steps. Baby steps, baby steps, baby steps. If you're still a closeted trans person and when I was first transitioning, okay, I didn't wear women's clothes outside my house, but I wore them in my house, and I put makeup on, and that helped. That was a baby step. And then, And if your significant other is having issues, baby step with them too. At first, my wife was, of course, understandably upset. So when I wore women's clothing, I'd do it 2 or 3 times a week, and that was it. And then I'd slowly increase it. And then as she got used to it, I got more comfortable with it. And then I'd wear my clothing in my vehicle when I was driving to and from a place if I wasn't getting out. And it's just the little baby steps. I always say, take little baby steps, know where your goal is, and just...
and I will add this, knowing where your goal is important, where your goal is important. Good grief, you wouldn't think I've done this a dozen times already. Knowing where your goal is important, but also be prepared for that goal to change. As you begin to transition, as your hormone levels change, you're going to realize that maybe things aren't, what you expected, or what you want isn't what you expected. I was going to be perfectly fine with just hormones, but as this started to happen, I'm like, this will never be enough. I need to reflect my true self, and so the finish line was moved on me. But I'm not upset about it. I still see where I'm at, but I know myself a little better. Now, before we get to the end of our little talk here, yes. I want to get back to your wife.
Yes.
So, your relation, especially in light of the fact that you are getting bottom surgery coming up, how has that affected and if this is too personal and if she doesn't want you sharing this, I perfectly understand. She has veto power here. How has that affected your romantic relationship? And by romantic, I mean,
Well, to be honest with you, because of the hormones and stuff, it obviously blocks testosterone, so my sex drive is like really, really low right now. Because okay, so my wife is clearing her throat is like, I have no sex drive.
Okay. Well, then how does she feel about? You know what? Just bring her on. I want to talk to her. No, I'm just kidding.
She's right here.
No, so we're gonna have to do this at some point, but maybe not tonight. But we could definitely come back. Have you come back and do a couples talk on this. If and when you're comfortable, just putting it out there.
She's shaking her head yes.
Oh, okay. That's excellent, because I would absolutely love to tackle this subject, because from personal experience, my partner and I didn't have a problem because she was asexual and my libido was gone. But it's not gone anymore. It's not as bad as it was. It is not anywhere near my old teenage boy levels that seem to just carry through my whole 30s, but it is lessened, but it is back. So with that said, though, is she prepared? You know what? We're going to save this for another time. We're going to reschedule this because I absolutely want a full discussion about this, and I think it's necessary. Okay. We need to absolutely have a talk with partners and their trans spouses, because this is an important issue that I think is going to come up with a lot of people, and I think we could get a lot of this. And I know I have somebody else who I'm really dying to get on this show, if she's able. But her partner is pretty visible, and it's not necessarily the best. But, so yeah, I'm bringing you back. We're going to talk about this.
Okay.
Okay. It probably won't be till October, assuming I don't disappear on my drive across country. So
I hope not.
Hey, you never know. Stranger things happen. Hills have eyes.
Yes. That's a good show.
Come on, Rob Zombie. All right. So
I don't watch horror movies anymore.
Pardon?
I don't watch horror movies anymore.
I don't either. I don't like them. They scare me. Now, I want to okay, so let's talk about this lack of sex drive. Have you noticed any other things that have really changed the way you handled or processed the world? like emotionally or physically?
Yes, I'm more emotional. I really am. My wife is saying road rage. I guess I'm a more angry driver.
Really? You have a heightened anger sense. That's really strange.
I think it's
Sam, absolutely. If I hear banjo music, I'm gone.
I love that. If Ned Beatty can't get through there. Anyway. Sorry.
Okay, so you have road rage now. Now let's talk about the emotional connection though. Do you still find yourself, you've been on hormones for about 2 years, 2.5 years, over 2 years. So, do you still find well, first off, have you reduced your HRT levels at all? I know it's about the 2 or 3 year mark that they start reducing your estrogen. No? Okay.
Nope.
All right. So, have you noticed any decrease in the emotional response? Because, when you're first starting on estrogen, you're not used to it. Your whole body's going crazy and you're weeping like, somebody stuck a plug into a beer keg and it's just all coming out.
Right. Yeah, I mean, other than, less tolerance for idiot drivers, I think I'm a little more mellow. I mean, I tend to cry a little more, and I don't know if it's because of the hormones or because now I feel like I'm allowed to cry. Why I cry more? I don't know.
That's a really good question, and I've heard this a few times now, is that, the acceptance of being allowed to cry has opened up that way. Now, I will say for a fact that, no, it's definitely the estrogen for me. I cry over everything, and I love it. It's like if I don't have a good cry at least once a week, I don't feel like I'm expressing myself properly.
Well, I did notice I cry when I'm happy now. I didn't used to cry when I was happy.
Happy crying is fabulous.
I'm like, it's so weird. Why am I crying? I'm so happy.
I had one of the people I admire most in this world tell me that they were proud of me, and they said that they were proud of me, and that they didn't think that they could be any more proud of me. But I keep proving them wrong. And when they said that to me, I wept for an hour at least. And it was just sheer and utter joy. And I can't explain how amazing it is to be able to cry over good things, as opposed to all the negative things that have happened in our lives. Okay. We are just about out of time. So as much as I would like to keep talking, this is an hour show. I don't do overtime. So we will definitely have to bring you back, because I absolutely, talk with your wife, make sure she's actually okay with it and not just saying it because we're, talking in front of 12 people.
No, I know she's okay with it. She's
okay. So, we'll get back in touch about that. You know where I am. So, would you like to say any parting words to our massive audience? And remember, while they're only 9 right now, we do get typically around 200 views on these videos. I think most of them are watching for about 5 seconds, but we get about 200 views.
Okay. Parting, yeah. Live your life to its truest extent. Be who you're going to be and love who you are.
That is perfect. Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us on Transfigure Nation. Christyna, it's been an absolute pleasure. You are Yehuvian, which makes you a kinsman or kinswoman, since, whatever.
Yes.
It's been, like I said, it's been an absolute pleasure. And thank you so much for joining me tonight. Folks, always remember to love yourself first. Love others always, but never sacrifice yourself to make someone else happy. Because in the end, you aren't being true to yourself or to them. Thank you so much, and have a great night. Bye.